Okay. Putting the timer anyway because I went 11 minutes in the previous video and wasn't even done. So I'm just doing this because it beats having to repeat myself. I was going to talk about how badly Team Fortress 2 is imbalanced and stuff, but that would take too long, and I don't feel like doing it. You already know TF2 is bad, so I'm just going to talk about how the video game industry should be. It should be, seen as it's considered a legal art form, something that is not corporately owned. It's not something to be mass advertised. It's not something to exploit 12-year-old boys and their testosterone. It certainly isn't something to exploit their adrenal glands and get them to keep coming back because, you know, they're distracted by all the movement and explosions and bullshit. It shouldn't be something that you make 50,000 sequels about. It should be something taken seriously. When I play video games, I don't play them just to lounge around and, you know, get some release out of life. You know, there's other ways to do that, more cheaper ways to do that. But when I play a video game, I live it, I experience it, I taste it. I'm a connoisseur of video games, you could say. And I don't have the money to buy a lot of video games, but the ones that I do, I think about in my head all that is wrong with it, and I nitpick and I put it in detail, like Darksiders. Oh my god, Darksiders. But there are good games. Not many, but there are good games. Like Blue Dragon. Blue Dragon is the type of game that appeals to, obviously, your instinct, but in a positive way. It's not a way to make money. Blue Dragon makes treasure hunting extremely easy. You just check under a rock, boom, you find a potion. This is essentially how an MMO works. It triggers that gift receptor of your brain. I could link to a Crack Magazine article where they did that, where they said that a rat was more likely to starve from a pellet machine that randomly gave out pellets than if it barely gave out any, or if it gave out, you know, just all of them at the same time. What happened is if the rat doesn't know when he's going to get the pellet, he's just going to keep pressing the machine and not be distracted by anything else. Because if there's barely any pellets, he'll ration his pellets, and if it just keeps coming, he's not going to worry about it. You know, he figures he's got enough pellets. But if it's randomized, even if it's a lot of pellets, he doesn't know if that'll continue. So, you know, he freaks out, and then it's an anxiety. So they're helping develop your anxiety. They are literally giving you a mental illness. That's evil. That is beyond comprehension. This is why in a lot of countries video games are severely regulated. It's not because they're dictators. It's not because, you know, those countries are just backward and super religious. It is because they know that when the marketplace does not have any sort of, you know, restriction, bad things happen and bad people get in charge of it. So, you know, you have to think about these things, and you have to ask yourself why. Why would a legal form of art be like this? Is a painting like this? You know, well, music's like that, but normally we tend to put two classes of music. There's pop music, and then there's real music. There's symphonies and orchestras and operas and, you know, theater. And then they shouldn't be distinguished. We shouldn't have to choose. We should make music as an art form. We should make movies as an art form. These things can entertain people ethically. Blue Dragon is one of those rare games that entertains you ethically. It has good graphics. It's not great graphics. I'm never going to be like, oh my god, it's like I'm living in real life. No. But it's sleek. It has a cartoony vibe that it's relaxing. It's colorful. You know, it doesn't seem too threatening. Nothing really comes at you. Bleh, and it's just, you know, it's just nice. It's calm. It's like playing one of those Super Nintendo games, but without all the aggravating platforms and other variables that make it unplayable. It is just an authentically good game. It's got good voice acting. It's got good music. It's got good sound effects. And, you know, so I'm not incapable of making a positive statement. I just don't see it that often. And I wish I could say otherwise. I wish that there was public funding for guys like me to make video games, and I could get together with software people and we could make it happen. And we wouldn't do it to make money, we would do it to create art. And yes, we would probably make some money, but that is so we can live off it and then use that time to make more art. That should be what people do. They should make money so that they can survive, and then from there use their time to put their talents or desires to the best use possible for mankind. That might not be what you do, but I would hope that everyone has something that they can make use out of, while at the same time having all their needs provided so that they can be of optimal use. And there's that whole argument that, if everybody would just got, everything they needed, then they'd just be lazy. No, we're lazy because we don't have anything to begin with. We know we're not going to get anything. That's why we're lazy. We're lazy because it is easier to work at McDonald's than to, go out and get a college education just to get rejected from getting a doctorate, or, not have the money for advertisement, or, to be a lawyer, or, there's just all these things holding us down. It's not because people are lazy. If people were lazy, they wouldn't go to work. They wouldn't go to work every day and bust their ass for 9 hours a day. They wouldn't, tear themselves apart over, measly minimum wage. People are not lazy by any means. They're just ignorant. They're ignorant and, they work for all the wrong reasons. But that is not laziness. That's just misdirection. But there are people out there that do know what direction mankind should take, and I do not believe they are doing enough to, direct the rest of everybody. So, that's what I'm trying to say here. We need some kind of state incentive for people to make video games, and I would love to see that come at the expense of these transnational corporations like Valve and EA and Blizzard and anybody else. Anybody else with that kind of money should have it literally taken out of their pocket and given to people that actually want to make this an art form, that actually care about substance and are not satisfied until that game is fucking brilliant, until that game could win Game of the Year and people remember it for years to come. And they don't want to make a sequel, they want to make something completely different, and they want it to be even more exciting and fun and innovative than the last creation they made. That's the kind of people who need to be in gaming, and that's not the kind of person that is motivated by profit. There's not enough money in the world to motivate you to do something like that. The only motivation that can gear you to doing something like that is a spiritual fulfillment. You have to want it. That has to be in your blood where you want to do those kinds of things. So I don't expect other people to understand, because it's probably not for them. But as someone that likes to make art, that has always been an illuminating concern of mine, that I have not made a good enough impression upon the world. That's why I make YouTube videos, that's why I write fanfics, that's why I do anything that I do, because it is a desperate attempt, given my financial condition and, circumstances and anxieties and things, that this is the best I can do to try to get out my artistic ability. And then people want to mock me and stuff. That's why I made this account, because it's not infested with the trolls that my previous account had.